Hello, how are you?
Hello, Jessica.
There
I'm
you
good.
are.
I'm good.
There
There I
you
am, and
are.
we're in the right
Excellent.
call. How exciting.
Oh, I know. Oh, wait a minute. Now let's see. Oh, meeting notes. Okay, I don't care about meeting notes. Am
Let me
I going to need to
just,
share the screen at all? I don't think so, right? I don't
perhaps,
know.
perhaps not. We'll see where the flow goes. I have posted out. We're about 15 minutes before the official start of the live stream, but anyone who happens to drop by will see our lovely faces. Um, I have popped a form into the academy in a few places, and sometimes that will spur a couple of questions that we might get. But if not, we can catch up. We can catch up on what's new and have a good old chit chat like we always do.
Yeah, I'm not even worried. If they show up, they show up, and if they don't, then we had a chance to chat. I have to tell you something. I've got to actually be quieter because at 9 o'clock, well, right now my husband's working out with his trainer and they do that via Zoom. And what's really funny is that she hates it when anybody else is talking in the background. So I have to be quiet, but they'll be done at 9. So anyway, but I have to tell you, I am working on something I'm so excited about. I am working on creating. You didn't grow up in the US, but in the US there was a program called, oh my God, what happened? Hold on. You okay? Oh,
When your
okay.
husband's working out and you hear a crash.
I know, right? Anyway, there was this reading system called SRA, and the way it worked was it was a box in the back of the classroom, and they had cards that you as the student could go pull, and they were color coded, and they were you would read the content, whatever it was, and then you would answer questions that were on the card about the content, and it was a way of measuring your reading levels.
Oh yeah, we
I
do
loved
that in
it.
UK schools. Yeah, like comprehension.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So I was like, well, then I was thinking about the fact that I cried through every math class I ever had. And the reason that I did that was number one, because I was stupid. Not because I was stupid about math, which might be the case, but because I didn't recognize that what I needed to do was do for me to succeed at math, I had to do every problem in the back of the book, for the chapter, then extra problems. Then I had to ask, and I didn't figure that out until I got out of college and I took a calculus class and I got straight A's. But it was because I was finally mature enough to realize that it's not going to come naturally to me. So anyway, put these two thoughts together. And I was thinking about DAX and I was like, I'm going to start developing a set of like SRA cards with DAX exercises, but to your point about making sure that lessons are short, they're only going to be like 5 things that you do on that card, and each one is going to explain a concept and gradually build up your knowledge or your understanding of DAX. And so I'm super excited about it, actually. I'm really excited about it. So I'm thinking maybe we can introduce that or something. Let me show you really quickly. Hold on, let me share my screen.
Yeah.
This
Well, as
is
long
good
as there's
because
nothing
we can
sensitive,
test.
because I was just
No,
checking you are
no,
live on YouTube.
no, there's nothing sensitive in
Jolly
there.
good. Jolly good.
I love that. Jolly good, jolly good. Okay, what am I sharing? Okay, I'm sharing this. All right.
That's you're
First of all,
sharing your bank details, right?
yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
good luck with that because nobody is going to be interested in my bank balance. Trust me.
Oh, do you know what?
I think if somebody was trying to steal from me and went into my bank balance, they'd be like, "Oh no, we got to leave this poor woman
No, but
alone."
right, quilts are expensive, Jessica. Like if you make a quilt, and we all know you're a quilter,
Mm-hmm.
you make one of those, I'm having it because they're worth hundreds and hundreds of pounds in the real world. They're
Well,
expensive things.
not well. Yeah, we can have a different conversation about that. But hold on, let me get this up here. Hold on, let me just quick, because I'm so excited about it, and I have no issues, I'm developing this for the community. All right, hold on. So
Oh, I'm getting
here's
excited now. So this
here's
is
an
this is
example.
DAX, bite-sized DAX, is it?
Yes. So here's an
Ooh.
example, and I know you can't read it. Let me zoom it up just a tiny bit here. So you can read it just a little better. So I just did that. But anyway, so basically there's going to be an exercise. It's going to start very simple with a specific function. In this case, the function is summarize. And then let me just blow this whole thing up here into bigger font. Then it's going to build gradually. So we do the exercise, we get the commentary, then we build, then we do another exercise, and then we get the answer, and then we get the commentary about, well, what's the difference between, exercise 1 and exercise 2? And then, just keep on going like that. And then once it's, then you go to the next lesson. So, so I've written out a couple of them already. And I'm using actually DAX Studio because I'm pretty sure that everybody, well, if you've got Power BI Desktop, you can have DAX Studio. So, because it's free.
Ooh. Ooh.
So it also gives you a chance to explore DAX Studio and just get introduced to it, because I struggled so long to try to understand like how to use DAX Studio. And so that's kind of built into this. So I even have so I've got this, and this is all basically pulling from the concept you and I have been using, which is, your concept about going step by step.
Nuggets.
So yeah, so this is where you get set up, and then this one is all about DAX Studio. And again, not trying to have everybody, I'm not trying to teach people how to use DAX Studio, because there's a lot of videos on that, but free videos. But this is more about, okay, what are the things you have to know to make it, to work with it? Like, for example, I could not figure out for the life of me for the longest time, when do I use evaluate and when do I use define? And, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it became clear to me. And so I was like, you know what? I think this is something that other people could benefit from. So anyway,
Oh,
I'm super
Jessica, that's
excited about that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Keep some of this, because in 7 minutes I've got bunches of questions I want to ask you, and bunches of thoughts it's given me based upon our last conversation about a space for Power BI. We could talk about that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
hey, look, if there aren't bundles and bundles of questions, and there aren't bundles and bundles of people asking us questions, then would you be happy to we'll have a little chit chat about DAX Studio, a bit of chit chat
Yep.
about your plans there, maybe a chit chat about our discussion around a dedicated Power BI space, because
Yeah.
it has continuity and it has legs with what we want to do in the future. We've got a few pieces to move into place first around other topics as well, but that looks fantastic. That's something I would benefit from. Like,
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
DAX is
because
overwhelming, isn't it? It's like it's a big
that
topic.
it is, and you have to decide if you want to be good at that. But anyway, let me run to the bathroom. I'm going to leave you with my little
Okay.
balloons for 1 second,
Yeah,
and
you
I'll
do
be
that, and
right
I'm
back,
just
and
going to
we can
switch
kick
it
off.
to, yeah, I'll switch it to starting
Okay.
soon, and we'll come back in 5.
Okay.
Hello, Sydney. We got you out of bed.
Good
Very warm
morning.
welcome.
Hey, we got
Hey,
somebody.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah.
hear you, Sydney.
Jessica's a
Sydney,
disembodied head right now because we can't quite see her. She'll be on her earphones somewhere.
No,
oh,
I'm
hey,
watching the sunrise. This is my favorite activity of the day. I'm going to go.
oh, you broke up, Sydney. You broke up. John, can you hear me? I hope you can.
I can indeed, yeah.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of minutes, and we'll
yeah.
get kicking off in a moment. Yeah, Sydney loves to join us on these live streams. It's great having Sydney here again.
Where's Sydney from? From the U.S. somewhere.
Wilson, California.
Oh, that's why you said sunrise. Yeah, honey, you're still in the dark. Woo. You are still in the dark. Well, no, it's 6 a.m. there. Oh, but you're not on the edge of the, are you on the edge of the Pacific time zone? Maybe. Anyway, whatever. We're so glad to have you, Sydney. I'm in Maine, so I am literally the opposite end of the country from you. I was telling John, I went to Colorado, and you know what amazes me about the US is that, you know, you could live your whole life here, go on vacation, never leave this country, and just there's just no end of things to see in terms of the geography and the terrain. So different. So anyway.
It is, and it's all so big. Like, I went to Yosemite for my 30th summon long time ago. And honestly, I stood at the bottom of it going, that's a big hill. And that's a big hill.
Yeah.
It is big
and
stuff,
it's not even the biggest one, right? I mean,
no.
That's the thing about Colorado is the mountains are so ginormous. And I know they're not even as big as the Tetons. They're not as big as, you know, the Olympics. It's just, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I like my mountains a little more restrained. I like them beaten down a little bit. I like them rounded off. I like them tired, slumped over. Yeah, just, well, the White Mountains, I mean, the White Mountains here on the East Coast are part of the Appalachian chain. And so they're very old. They're much older than the Rockies. And that's why they're so much lower, is because they're very, very, uh-oh, I just hit Connor. Oh no, you better stop. I hit request to join. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
He's just messaged me to say he's going to go and get some lunch, so he'll be getting called by Jessica. But there you go. Oh, don't worry, it's fine. He'll ignore it. It's fine. In fact, I'll tell him to ignore it.
Okay, good.
Ignore the call.
Ignore the
Jessica
call.
hit the wrong button.
Yes, I did. And Julie, good morning. Good morning. Where are you from? Hey, Sydney, thanks for coming on chat, because I don't think we were hearing your voice.
No, what I'll tend to do is I'll probably keep people muted unless they want to come off mute and say hi. You're very welcome to.
Yeah.
This is free and open and all that good stuff.
Very warm welcome,
Gail.
Look at this. We got the women in the house today, girls. Let's go. Let's do this. Julie, where are you from? Let's see. Wait a second. Oh, Julie's from your neck of the woods. Okay.
We should have a US UK off. How many people can we get from each location?
I know exactly. Oh, right now. Look at Marie. Okay. Sydney's in the gold country. Yeah. You know what, Sydney, I didn't realize is that Colorado has had a lot of gold mining. I guess I knew that, but I didn't really know it until I went to a ghost town there, which was great. Oh, Gail, where are you?
Is that like a gold, an ex-gold mining, or I was going to say, is that a town that's in the Westerns? But that'll sound really weird to you because that's part of your history, not a film style that we watch. What's a ghost town?
A ghost town is just an old town, and this particular one they've renovated and made into like a museum. It's actually in the same town that South Park, the TV show, was named after. It's in South Park, Colorado. Ah, yes, there's Sydney. Look at that. Oh,
Cool,
look
cool,
at
cool.
Sydney. She's on her game. All right, Marie, where are you from? Tell us where you're from, Sydney. Ooh, Gail, Central Texas. Honey, you are boiling. You are baking. You are boiling and baking in Central Texas. All right, let's see. Oh, Marie's coming in here. All right, we got all women so far. Oh,
Isn't it?
Georgia. All right, we got the South in the house. So McDonald, Georgia. So my aunt lives in Atlanta. Anyway, we're at 9:01. So if any of y'all want to start, we can talk geography all day, or we can talk Power BI.
So I've just for anybody who's not joined this, is this anybody's first time for one of these calls, these like live streams as we call them? I know it's not your first time, Jessica. You've been with us many times, and it's always a delight.
No, I've only been with you once before.
Once.
You've only had me once. Oh, Sydney, I don't know why we're fading out for you.
You have issues with the connection by the sounds of it. We'll speak up. That's not going to help, is it? That's not going to open the internet.
No, we'll just yell. We'll just yell. So
just
John,
yell.
just yell. All right, my gals. Where's my questions? My gals. What's going on? This is the Power BI hour. Sorry, were you trying to say something, John? I'm sorry. Were you trying to say something?
I could just press mute, Jessica, but I'm not going to because I love this. Yeah, so today, feel free to pipe up with any questions that you've got around the space of Power BI. If something's confusing you, you're a bit stumped with a problem, Jessica and I will try and unstump you. I say Jessica and I'll point at Jessica and she'll come up with some great answers, because a very warm welcome to you, Jessica. You're our resident Power BI expert, and it's lovely to have you back. But I have posted into chat a form. Feel free to use that form to structure your question. Feel free to just chuck your question at us in chat. And if we don't get any questions, Jessica and I have got some conversations lined up that we're going to have. I say lined up, we've just talked about them before the start of this call, haven't we? And you've shown me some cool stuff.
All right, so Gail says she is trying to learn it by osmosis. So Gail, where are you on your journey? Because I know that's how I learned Power BI, and that's a tough road to go. And it took me a while because I didn't come with a database background. So what's your journey like, Gail? If you tell us, that would be awesome, because I'm always curious about that.
You were an Excel baby, weren't you, Jessica? You began using Excel.
Yeah, I didn't have any database. And I do feel that was a barrier for me initially, because I didn't know the terminology. I was being stumped by even some basic things, like when I would open up the Power Query editor and it would say query. And I was like, well, what's a query? I was being, it's hard when you're coming in and you don't realize, or even, something like ETL, which stands for extract, transform, load. Well, that's database lingo. That's not Excel lingo. So I find those things, they were barriers. Oh, look at that. Okay, so Gail's comfy with the database concept. Okay, so you got a head start there, Gail. Because I didn't have any knowledge about databases whatsoever. So, oh my goodness. Sorry, my guys. That's my mother, and I forgot to silence my phone. There we go. Okay. Sydney says, I need some architectural drawings. What do you mean, Sydney?
Just on sort of Gail's use case there, if learning by osmosis means, probably like I did, and I'm still on this journey now, beginning to start to realize that there's some stuff in Power BI that could be really useful to you. One thing that really helped me, actually, and we ended up building a course out of this, the Jumpstart, which I think you may have taken, Gail. If not, I'll pop you a link. Was just get a data set and begin to explore what you might do with that data set. Like Kaggle.com is a good place to go and get data, or Excel sheets. Get them, start to extract them into Power BI, and then play and see where you land. That's where I started anyway. I don't know about you, Jessica. Where was your first step? Do you remember?
Oh, I honestly, it had to have been in Excel. It had to have been in Excel. But, and, oh, Visio or block drawing showing the first step, second step, using crazy
Ooh.
names that keep changing. Yeah, that's kind of there are some very good diagrams out there, Sydney, about Power BI. However, they are all very confusing, in my opinion. Oh, we got some bunches of people coming in. So hang on, I'm going to go. Good morning, everybody. I am going to go. John, while I go look, I think I've got one of those crazy diagrams.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to share it on the screen. But meanwhile, you can say hello to everybody.
It's nice. Yeah, we're getting some more people joining, and welcome if you just joined. We're having a general conversation around Power BI today. Can be anything. You can drive the agenda if there's something you're from Nuremberg. Very warm welcome. If there's something that's stumping you, or you'd like to know, or you'd like to get an opinion on, shout out in the chat, or I will once again just post the form in here that you can fill in, just structure a question, or just come off mute and you can ask us. But if not, we've got some things in store that we'll share with you. Just to sort of go back to that idea of a learning journey for Power BI, a bit of a blatant sales pitch here, but we do have what we call a success path for Power BI. So if anybody hasn't looked at it, I'll post you a link shortly, but it takes you from a place where you've got a bit of data in Excel that we give you, and you start to step through in very small bite-sized pieces what it means to go and explore that data using Power BI. And then the next step, we call it the step up, takes you into a place where you've got that. You maybe want to bring some more data sources in, and you start to want to try a few things. And Jessica will talk about this, DAX. And then we go into what we call the Pathfinders, where you're starting to build more skills in DAX. And Jessica's well, you pretty much finished it, haven't you? A really good Pathfinder that's going to be added to that success path, all about data modeling. And I'm super excited to see that one. So that will be added really, really soon. But yeah, Sydney, if you want to take that journey, have a look at the architectural pictures that Jessica's going to show you. But I would say go and have a look at that. And if you want, I'll post a link in as Jessica speaks, so you can go and have a look.
Okay, so here is just one example, and by the way, and this is old, and let me make sure everybody sees that this is not mine, it's not my work, it's Dustin Ryan. So again, no shade to anybody who has taken the time to create something this elaborate, because I certainly couldn't do it, but what I will say is this is relatively simple compared to some of the drawings I've seen. And again, this one's out of date. But so Sydney, if you like, I mean, this is not exactly an architectural drawing. It's also not exactly a Visio, but it is graphical in its presentation. And there are a lot of these kinds of diagrams out there. And if that's your jam, well, one of the things I think we're trying to do eventually is make a place for these kinds of resources, right, John? Aren't we sort of thinking about that?
We are indeed, yeah. So, I mean, it's worthwhile just talking about that. So if you've been in and around, if I can just grab the screen very temporarily. One thing I'm going to observe, Jessica, is these diagrams are great, but they always make me do this, like side of my head. So can't we put it straight and then I can read it? So let me just share my screen, if I may. Let's get you off that screen there.
Okay. I'm going to knit while we're talking. Okay,
oh, yeah,
so
nice.
Everybody, I'm also a knitter and a quilter, so I find that, I don't know about you guys, but my hands need something to do. So anyway, while we talk.
And Sydney, what the heck did I just do? Oh, I created an infinite loop by sharing my screen, which also had Jessica on it. But hopefully now you can see a screen that I've just posted. But for those of you who might be a little bit new to the Academy, you won't see all of this down the left-hand side unless you're a Platinum Plan member, in which case all of this is accessible to you. I'm an admin, so I see everything. But Jessica and I have been talking. We have these wonderful community spaces here. And they're great places to ask questions about any service in Microsoft 365. So if you've got questions, pop to the forum. We've then got things, as I've just pointed out, specific courses that, you know, they come as part of the Platinum Plan. You can buy them, whatever. They're great learning. But what Jessica and I have been talking about, and we at Collab 365 are talking about in more general terms, is having dedicated spaces probably within this community, which will focus on a topic and allow you to come to that topic, be it Power BI, be it one of the ones we've been talking about today is the use of AI with Microsoft technologies, or Power Apps. But we are going to start thinking about having a dedicated place for you to come. And so, for example, it could be down the left-hand side here that you would just click. It would look a bit like this, but what you would do then is we would add artifacts for that topic into that space. In the same way here, the Platinum Plan has artifacts which are exclusive to people who are Platinum Plan members. So I think there's definitely an appetite for us to do that, Jessica, and I think you've offered to help in that space, and I think it could be a really valuable space for people. Would love to hear from what what you think on this call, whether you think that would be valuable to you, or if you like the fact you can just spam,
I think that there are 2 people already saying that would be helpful, so that's good.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think when John and I were brainstorming, I think one of the things that got us, we were talking about was a lot of times, and I don't know for how many of you this is true, but for a lot of people, they might be a sole practitioner of Power BI in their organization, or they may have a small group doing Power BI, and that leaves you stranded a little bit in terms of being able to bounce ideas off of other people, being able to find out if someone has already done something, and so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're thinking about making this that kind of a place, and so that if you are that sole practitioner, or if you are that, singleton who is, struggling away and you need that help, this might be a place to go. And obviously it has to be led and hosted somewhere, but if the community gets established, then it runs itself, because then people come and we're thinking, so how we got on this topic was that would be a place for resources that people find, like this type of diagram or other things that I've seen out there that you may not be aware of, or you just don't have time to source it. You don't have time to go digging. So that's kind of what we're thinking about. And I'm curious how many of you all are sole practitioners. Marie says, big challenge, just have to come up with things and let leadership look at it. Yeah, exactly. And I think the problem, Marie, a lot of times is, it's very hard to get help, because a lot of times you can't share your data. So, and anonymizing data is a lot of work. So it's just a good idea, I think, to have a place where people can at least come and discuss a concept. They may or may not be able to show people their work product, but at least come and discuss a concept, or hear about new stuff. That's the other thing about Power BI that's very hard when you're a sole practitioner, or in a small group, or it's not your main job. That's the other thing. A lot of people are taking this on and it's not their main job. And and there is a significant learning curve. So anyway, all of those reasons speak to why we think this might be a good idea.
Yeah, I think you're right there. We find this in a lot of the Microsoft Power Platform spaces. I'm going to say, I know Power BI is perhaps the little bit of the anomaly there, but it still technically is classed as one of the Power Platform elements. We find a lot of people who go, look, the community's great, the academy's great, because I'm on my own and the forum is valuable for them. And if we can dedicate a forum space to those topics, you've almost got a bunch of virtual friends you can talk to. Like day to day, I talk to Connor and Connor talks to me. He says, well, I'm stuck on this formula. I'm not sure where. We don't do a lot of Power BI, admittedly. I'd come to you, Jessica, because you're my expert there. But it's really valuable, isn't it? Just to go, I need to just talk to somebody about my problem in this space. And sometimes the answers reveal themselves. And having that space in the academy could be really valuable.
Well, Sydney says no might about it, so that's awesome. And Melissa says they do have a community of practice, but no one in IT seems to have time to be the expert. Yeah. I mean, everybody's taking on 2 or 3 or 4 jobs. It's interesting when I teach Power BI, when I do an overview class, and the one thing people walk away with is, oh my goodness, this is way more complex than I thought it was. And if you think about all the stuff that you've got to consider at least mastering, you've got the Power Query Editor, which is a powerful tool just by itself. And then you've got the M language. And then you move over to the desktop and you've got, modeling and DAX and visuals and layout and graphic design. And then you go to the service, and the service is a whole entity unto itself. And it's about to get more complex, folks. Okay, so buckle up, people, buckle up, because Power BI is now the centerpiece of Microsoft Fabric. And Gail's like, no. Oh yeah, honey. It's never, it's not gonna. That's the thing. Once you are riding the Power BI train, you are, and it's true for a lot of the products. But
I'm going to align to what Melissa said there, in that I'm not sure I would say harder necessarily, but its landscape is way bigger. So than Power Apps, for example. You can pretty much cover most of the main topics in a Power Apps interface. You could probably cover them in 2 or 3 courses. You can get a feel for components, for the items, etc. You can do your canvas, you can do data sources. It's got defined edges, whereas I think you've just alluded to there, Power BI has a number of steps, each of which have all these facets, and then now those steps exist within Fabric, so you've got this bigger wrapper. So I'm with Melissa there, that it feels bigger to me. It feels a broader service and requires therefore more dedication to get to grips with, if you have to get to grips with all of it. But you just said a thing there as well, haven't you? There's different roles in Power BI.
Yeah, and Melissa says you also need a smattering of data analysis knowledge. I would say you need more than a smattering. You do. I mean, when I introduce things to beginners, first of all, they walk away kind of overwhelmed by the landscape itself. But then it's the one thing I think you've got to know, you've got to master, is data modeling. Unless someone's going to hand you the model, which is possible, unless someone's going to hand you the model, you have to know how to model. You're not going to be any good at Power BI for building robust reports based on data that has millions of rows. So notice that I'm qualifying my statement. But if you're starting off small, eventually you'll end up big. And it's important to have all of that, the data model, established and well designed if you're going to be working with millions and millions of rows. It's just the thing. Oh, and then Sydney says the elephant in the room is you need to know what's wired into SharePoint so you don't duplicate. Well, that's an interesting, I know, Sydney, you know what, I'm going to hold off because she just had to leave. So I'll wait and comment on that when she gets back. But let me just talk a little bit about DAX. Who here uses DAX? Who here has developed, feels like they're, oh, you're still here, Sydney? Okay, good to know. Well, let me jump back and address your comment real quick. That is one of the things that I love about Power BI, is that you are connecting into a source of the data, and if you do it correctly, you are not replicating that source, no matter where it's coming from. So if you're going from Excel or a database or SharePoint, that's one of the advantages. I always tell people Power BI doesn't do version control, but it's a feature, not a bug, because the reason that you want it to be not doing version control, not to say you don't need to do version control somewhere. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it does not do that. It's not a version control tool. And the reason for that is because you always want to know that you're looking at the latest and greatest. You know, I don't know how many of you have worked in corporate jobs. I did for 27 years. And how much time did we spend? Okay, have you got the latest one? Can you send me the version of that file? What version am I working with? You're out of that. You're out of that. So that's one of the strengths of Power BI. Yes. So, oh, Sydney says not what I meant. Okay, my bad. SharePoint is a front end of the SQL database and Teams is another. Interesting, because, you know, Teams is SharePoint. Teams is SharePoint. It's just, I call it the gateway drug to SharePoint, because I don't know about any of y'all, but when SharePoint first came out, I worked in a huge, massive organization and we implemented it. But there was never any training. Nobody ever told you how to use it. You just had to fumble your way through it. And so I think a lot of people, when you say the word SharePoint, at least if they had that early experience, it was intimidating, it was scary, whatever. So Teams is built on SharePoint. It's just a front end. And
Yeah,
I think they just wanted to make it, yes. There, oh, look at Marie. She does Teams training for her division. Love that. All right. Bringing things together.
I agree there. It is. We describe it in the foundations course as like the reception for your office building, which contains many other floors and services. It's a place that you can be and almost instantaneously access, let's say, some data in SharePoint or a Power App or Power Automate flows or a report. It's all there. You can bring it together so you don't break your flow of work. That's the Microsoft vision, isn't it? It's keeping you in the flow of work.
I love that. I'm going to steal that. I love that. It's better than gateway drug. Gateway drug is
I like gateway drug. I mean, that sounds really bad. If you take that out of context and you just get that snippet, that sounds really bad. I love gateway drug.
Yeah, it's yeah, but yes, Gail says they took the conversational aspects of SharePoint and put them into Teams. Yeah, I mean, it's a less intimidating way to get into SharePoint. And the reason when I taught Teams, and I don't teach it very much anymore, is I said, you know, it underneath is SharePoint. But the good news is you don't have to go into SharePoint from Teams until you're ready. And once you're ready to go to SharePoint, then you're motivated to deal with the complexity. But until you need it, you don't have to do it. You can stay up here at this surface level. So anyway, we don't want to make this a Teams SharePoint dialogue, but I did like Sydney's comment, and I love Gail and Marie's comments too. All right, but hold on. Let me go back here and see DAX. I asked who's using DAX. Okay, so Melissa said no DAX except on CERT exam. Anybody else? Where's my peeps? Where's my peeps? Oh, Eva, let's hear from some of the people that aren't chatting yet. Klaus, welcome. Lisa, welcome. Okay, Eva.
Connor's joined because you pulled him in. I can boot you if you like, Connor. Jessica just decided she wanted to call you, so we thought it'd be funny to let you take that call.
Oh, Connor, no, I'm so sorry. I made just a big mistake.
He was having a very relaxing lunch.
Oh, well, he's here with us now. No,
He is,
Connor,
yeah.
you can, as my daughter says, you can dip. You can dip, Connor, you can dip. All right, so I'm not hearing anybody about DAX, but let me talk about DAX for a minute, because again, if you're going to be building models, if you're going to get handed a model, it's good to understand it and recognize it, but you don't have to learn how to write it. Okay, but if you're building models, you're going to have to learn DAX. You just are. And I've been on this journey for a while. And of course, I have the Bible, which is the definitive. I know it's reversed, but the definitive guide to DAX. If you're going to learn DAX, you gotta have this book, period, full stop, no exceptions, no whatever. Then, oh, I don't have the other book here. There's a beginner book that's put out by Matt Allington that I think is actually, this is not a beginner book, people. This is a reference book. Oh, I think John's working on it.
One in, actually. Yeah, you saw me look to the left there. You read my mind. I've gone to SQL BI because that's another site you use quite a lot, isn't it? SQL BI.
I use SQL BI. That's now I started. You know what? I'm so glad you said that, because you asked me how I started my journey. I started my journey by watching every Guy in a Cube video that they put out. So I watched and they still put out really good videos. Highly recommend them. But their videos are accessible, they're friendly, they're fun, they're short. So that's kind of where I started my journey. The problem, and it's not a problem per se, the challenge with using something like that is that they pick topics that they're interested in to do a video on. And it's not a seamless pathway or a continuous pathway like you'd find here on Collab 365. So again, great resource, but it's you dip in, you find the topic you're interested in, you watch the video, and that's great when you already know what you're interested in.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what you don't know, you need someone to set up a pathway for this. And but so DAX, getting back to DAX. So I've been on this DAX journey for a while, and it's finally kind of coming together. And as I said, SQL BI, that website, SQLBI.com, excellent, excellent, excellent content, technical content, not beginner content on DAX, data modeling, all that stuff. And they have a couple of free videos, which are, for being free, they're very robust. They do a lot of videos. And again, I don't feel that they are overshadowing or replacing or in any way overlapping kind of with what Collab 365 does, because when you go to SQLBI.com, unless you buy one of their training classes, which again, excellent, I think I have all of them. Again, you're going in and you're looking for a specific, you have a question, you have something specific that you're thinking about or that you're confused about. That's not easy for a beginner to do. Beginners cannot do that. So anyway, so yes, I do use SQLBI.com a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that that's where we try and come at BI as a topic. You're on this call now, you're listening to us talking as human beings. We recognize that we've all walked that path from completely novice, maybe working with Excel a little bit, to starting to know more about the intricacies of modeling and DAX. But that's where we've tried to position our course materials in the success path that I've linked to earlier. Is just to say, as a human being, this is where you might start. This is what you might not know. And therefore, let's just talk through a process of beginning learning. So it's about picking up skills, but at the same time, doing a thing that can cement those skills. So we give you like an Olympics dashboard we're giving you Olympics data set, because that's a bit more meaningful in the real world to people. They can understand what a gold medal is and what a country is. And we start to go, all right, so you might want to know what countries have got the best gold medals and whether there's any kind of factors influencing medal winning. So let's have a look at that problem. And that's where we try and talk it through and teach you the skills whilst solving that problem. And that's where we approach it, because we recognize that people begin somewhere over here, usually in the beginner space. And we want to take you to that place where you're hungry for more. And that's why you're now doing the Power BI Pathfinder, isn't it, Jessica, on data modeling?
Yeah, because again, if you're not going to be any good, if you do not understand data modeling, again, this is not a true statement if you are going to be just designing reports. And I don't mean to say just, because there's a skill set and an art form to designing reports, and I am not good at it. But
it's a skill in itself. Yeah, totally right.
Yeah, but if you're going to be building models, you're going to have to understand data modeling. And again, you'll get by if you're only doing, data sets with 1,000 rows, 10,000 rows. You'll skate. You'll skate by. But you start working with millions of rows, you're going to feel it. So
here's a question then, Jessica. Why is modeling important? What is going to cause me to need to know about how to model my data if I'm getting into Power BI?
Well, first of all, if you have the wrong, so modeling is all about creating relationships between tables. And if you're coming from Excel, you would be forgiven for thinking, okay, everything can just be in one big table. And it's a problem because, well, first of all, I believe, and I don't know, and maybe somebody in the chat can correct me, but I believe Tableau works on that basis, that Tableau has everything in one big model. But whatever the truth of that is, and I don't know, I've heard that, Power BI doesn't work that way. Power BI works with multiple tables that you connect together. And if you do not connect them together accurately, you run the risk of having one, flat out incorrect relationships, incorrect data. If you get any data at all, sometimes you'll just get repeating values. You could get incorrect data and or ambiguous data. So, and then so those are the three main reasons, because you don't want to report on data that's not correct. And then secondly, your performance of your report. If your model's poorly built, then and especially if you've got millions of rows, you will run into the problem where it is going to be too slow, and your report readers, your consumers, will complain. So modeling is the content and the speed of the report. And that's
one thing I've observed, and it might be just the way that I use Power BI, is that if I've not considered the relationships well enough and almost, I don't know if this is the correct word, but separated my data into the correct kind of pieces, you lose a lot of Power BI's flexibility when you want to look at the same thing with different lenses on. So if you want to look at a set of transactions by customers, if you've organized your model well, that's easy. And then you can look at it by time. Then you can look at it by products and categories. If you don't organize your model well, a lot of those wonderful features just becomes really hard, and you end up getting just dirge when you're looking at your reports.
Yeah, no, to me, the danger is, well, of course, the incorrect answer is always a problem. But the even greater danger is ambiguous, because you have a shot at finding an incorrect relationship or incorrect answer. You have a shot at spotting that. But ambiguous, you won't see it. And it's especially when you're dealing with millions of rows. So anyway, that's exactly why, in my opinion, modeling is so important. It just boils down to accuracy and performance.
Yeah, it does. So just a quick check-in again with those people who are watching. If you just joined us, if you have any questions around BI you'd like us to focus on, do pop us a question in chat. I haven't seen any questions yet on the form, which is absolutely fine. I'm going to assume that you're just enjoying Jessica knitting and chatting and me talking.
You can't see my knitting, but here it is.
What is it?
It is going to be a scarf. I bought some yarn in Colorado, which guys, I've been doing so well this year. I'd hardly bought any yarn at all. Well, I made up for it in Colorado. So anyway, so I'm working on like a commemorative little scarf to give to all the women who are on our trip in Colorado. So, all right. So Sydney's Wayne's in the house. Come on, Wayne. Love that. Drop some knowledge on us. Love that.
Is there anyone in this chat who consider themselves to be pretty good at Power BI? Because we're making a big assumption here that everyone's on this call is relatively new to it or wanting to explore it and hence happy to listen. Who's really good at Power BI?
Oh, yeah. That's what I always ask people, when when I start class, I'm like, okay, give yourself a 5 if you can teach this class. So never yet had anybody give me a 5, which is a bummer, because hey, I want to have somebody else teach my class. So anyway.
What rating would you give yourself, Jessica?
That's a really good question. I would not rate myself a 5, honestly, because first of all, I know the knowledge levels that are out there. Okay. And I know that I don't compare to some of the stuff that some of these people are who out there who know this stuff. They blow my mind. But what's really great is first of all, it's a moving target. Okay. So that's another thing I want everybody to keep in mind when you're getting into this journey is do not really, it's a bad question, because in reality, you're never going to be, if you are a 5, you're never going to be a 5 for very long, because then as soon as Microsoft, as soon as you get to be a 5, Microsoft will be like, oh, here's Fabric. Okay, now go learn it, that kind of thing. But that's good for our brains too, guys. I don't know about all y'all. Maybe y'all are like in your 20s and 30s, but John and I had the age conversation the other day, and I blew him away with how old I am.
You're not old, Jessica, but wow,
yeah. Yeah, but it's great because it's a never-ending journey and you constantly are learning. So I like that part. But wait, Wayne came in here. So I learned yesterday how to take 3 different tables with different status in the column, was able to use conditional formatting to make these statuses all be the same. Interesting. So Wayne, where did you do that? Did you do that in the? Yeah, where did you do that? Because you can do conditional formatting in Power BI Desktop, no question.
Sure.
And there are multiple layers of types of conditional formatting, but I'm curious about what he did there, because that sounds really.
It was interesting. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. First of all, thank you, Jessica and John. Love you guys. I'm very new at this, so I give myself a 1. I'm learning Power BI, but I had different statuses in different columns, like completed, somebody else called it done. And I looked at some of the DAX formulas to see, could I do it there? But then I found an article that basically said you could do some conditional formatting in the, oh my gosh, Power Editor or Edit.
The Power Query Editor.
Yep. So I was able to do it there, test it, and it worked like a charm. So I was very impressed with that. So that's how I learned, just here and there, and slowly kind of build those skills up, hopefully.
Yeah, awesome. No, you're so right. Not John. Did you just call him your name? Wayne. He's Wayne.
I said awesome job.
Oh, that's your accent. Okay.
It's the British accent, what I just used, Jessica. What confused you in it?
No, you people spell behavior with a U.
Oh,
you
let's
people
not go
spell
there.
Yeah,
Azure. It's Azure, Jessica.
No, and it's not Azure, it's Azure. Okay, well, we can't go down that rabbit hole because we'll be here all. John and I have already been on that roundabout, so
I win.
Love that, Wayne, because what you were talking about there is the Power Query Editor, which, first of all, I don't know if anybody knows the trivia behind that. Power Query Editor is the only surviving element from a failed project at Microsoft. Now, I don't know what the failed project was. I haven't been able to sleuth it that far back, but the Power Query Editor was the only surviving remnant of that failed project. And I swear to you guys that I love the Power Query Editor. Love it. It's as Wayne said, and it's available in Excel. So even if you're not going to use it in the Power BI Desktop or in the Power BI service, it's also available in Excel. So you're not limited. If you start learning Power Query Editor, you have multiple places you can apply that.
Yeah, it's fab, isn't it? As part of that extract, transform, and load, I often just look at the transform step and go, wow, that's brilliant. I'm so pleased I've just done that, because you can combine, you can split, you can reorder, you can reorient, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Flatten out your data and change columns to rows and rows to columns, all in that transform in Power Query. It's super valuable, isn't it? And yet you're not touching your underlying data. You're just taking it and making one language out of 16. So well done, Wayne. That's brilliant.
It is, and it's well worth the time that you would invest in learning that. Now, the interesting thing about it is it uses a different language. It uses a language called M. I'm going to put
Yeah, that
that into
confused
the
me to
chat.
start with, Jessica. You see DAX and you go, oh, I get what DAX is. It's a expression language. And then someone goes, what about M? And you go, what?
Yeah, and M is DAX has, I think, about 200 functions, maybe a little north of 200 functions. Excel formula language has, I think, 400 some odd. I haven't Googled it lately, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 400. M has 700 functions. It just is such a powerful language. That's kind of, oh, look at that. There we go. Melissa just put a, yep. Yeah. Oh, we got Rebecca. Rebecca's a new voice. Okay, bring it, Rebecca. What's going on? Oh, let me show this, John. Let me show this.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Jessica.
Let me show this. I'm so excited. Love that question, Rebecca. Hold on. All right. So first
She's even put
off,
knitting down, Rebecca. You've got Jessica really excited now.
I did. Okay, now let me share my screen. Hold on. Now I'm going to be fumbling around a little bit, but that's all right. Okay, so while I'm fumbling, could somebody please tell me, and this is a live stream on YouTube, so I'm not going to use a bad word, but could somebody, which I want to, but could somebody tell me what in the fresh heck is this screenshot? What is this picture? This is horrible, and it came on my Windows 11. Is anybody getting that? It's horrible.
Obviously, right. Jessica, it is the moon with some water splashes because there's water on the moon or Mars. It's not Mars, it's not red. It's that. Obviously, I mean, what is it?
It looks like Mordor, is what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Star Trek Mordor, one of those.
It's horrible. So I got to replace that. Every time I think about that. Hold on, I haven't forgotten your question, Rebecca. I just had to digress on that. Okay, so here is the link. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me just make sure I'm in the right place.
Does look AI generated. I'm gonna agree with you. The fact that it's decided to make the water splashes discs. Either that or what it's been designed to do is to trigger certain people.
Yeah, me. Hello, rude. Horrible. And of course, the funny part of this is, of course, I have the ability to okay, apparently no, what I don't have the ability to do is talk and chew gum at the same time. So just give me, there we go. Okay, so Rebecca, the link, let me put it in here. Hold on. Oh, you know what? I think Rebecca just put it, Melissa just put it in right above. So the source, okay, is the learn.microsoft.com /English US, and then you've got, I just happen to be on one particular page, but this is where I will go. Okay, so I'll go to this page and I will read about the function. There is a book. I'll show you this book. I highly recommend this book. Sorry, there it is. It is called Master Your Data. And this is by Ken Pulls and Miguel Escobar. Highly recommend this book as a reference. Highly, highly, highly. The other book as a reference, I don't have a copy of, but it is here, is Collect, Combine, Transform by Gail. And I know poor John's trying to keep up with these links here, but definitely, absolutely, if you want to get good at M, those are two books you have to have in your library. But that is not the most exciting. That's not why I got excited. So hold on, let me get my Power BI window open here and bring it over here because, like I said, I cannot chew gum and talk at the same time. So I'm in Power BI. I'm just using the Northwind data set here. There's nothing exciting happening. And I'm going to go to Transform Data. Okay, so once you're in the Power BI desktop, you can always get back to the Power Query editor just by clicking on Transform Data. So I'm going to open that up. And now I'm in the Power Query editor. And now Yes, it is Northwind. I like, actually, the reason I like Northwind more than any other generic data set is because, hold on, I just dropped something, is because it's small.
Yeah. But it's also
And
multifaceted, isn't it? I struggle to say that word.
yes, and you can bring it into Excel and you can check your answers. So I love the Northwind data set, but hold on. Now I have to Google something because you know what, I don't remember, but John, just talk amongst yourselves while I Google this and figure out where this is. So hold on.
I'm just getting the Northwind database for people. I'll post a link into it. In fact, I'll probably just post it somewhere. See, this is a classic thing. If we had the, if in time as we get the Power BI space, we can post items like this so people can find them easily. I'm just going to find it. There was a link. I remember somebody posted a link very recently on the Academy to a downloadable version of it, and I'm going to find it.
Oh yeah, and I have a downloadable version. If you need that, let me know. I have it, but hold on, I've got to find. Oh, come on. Just bear with me, everybody. I used to know this off the top of my head. List all M functions. Of course, everything is YouTube, and I don't want to go into YouTube.
One thing as you're doing this, Jessica, I'm going to say is if you've ever, it confused me at first because people talk about the M language and then I see the buttons on the ribbon and then I see the applied steps. Now, what is actually happening is it's almost like Power Automate. You've got a graphical version, user-friendly version of M that you can use in many circumstances, can't you? Because if you click on any of those cogs for the applied steps, correct me if I'm wrong here, but behind the scenes is the M language. So it's almost wrapped it up. It's wrapped it up for you and it's doing it for you, so you can actually see an example behind it. Oh
yeah, okay, hold on, let me just quickly demonstrate that, then I'll show you what I wanted to show. So what he's talking about, guys, so if you're not familiar, when you're in the Power Query editor, every time you hit you make a selection on the ribbon or right click, it's going to get recorded as a step. And it's if you've done macros in Excel, even if you've just done recording of macros, this is the concept, okay? And then what you can see is that up in the formula bar up here, this is the step actually written out in the M language, okay? And then if you go to the advanced editor up here in the ribbon under the Home tab, yes, Wayne, exactly. Applied steps the steps are incredible. Yeah, so here is your advanced editor. And what this is just a text file with all of the M written out that you have recorded using either ribbon or right click. So definitely, Wayne, it's one of the things I tell people is even though this tool set feels super intimidating, it is probably one of the easiest to go back, fix something, do something again, redo it. There is no other tool like this. And the reason I say that is because if you go into the Power Query editor window, okay, right, oops, sorry, I just zoomed up the wrong window here. Let me go. You come up here, you won't see any undo. There is no undo in the Power Query editor. And that could feel very scary until you realize that you have infinite flexibility with these steps here. You can delete them, you can redo them. So wherever you see a gearbox over here, that means you can open up that step and do it again if you need to do it differently. You can rearrange the steps. It's a fabulous tool. All right, but hold on. I'm going to do a blank query here. And this is where we were going with Rebecca's question. So I showed you the online resource, but it's also built in to the Power Query editor. So if you're ever, hold on, let me show you what I did. So I created a blank query over here on oh my goodness, come on, Jessica, let's get your zoom up. There we go. I created a blank query, which in the Power Query Editor just means a new sheet of paper. Okay, just think of it as a blank sheet of paper. So I right-clicked in this area here and I created a new query, new blank query. And then up in the formula bar, I typed in equals hashtag shared. And that will bring you up a list of all of the functions, the keywords, everything in M. And so if you are in the middle of something and you're like, wait a minute, how do I do that? Okay, you can come in here. So let me pick, I don't know, text after delimiter. So I'm going to pick text after the delimiter. That's a function. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and then down here at the bottom, let me shorten up this window here so we have room to see it. Look at that. You get all kinds of examples of how to. Oh yeah, so you can reference right within the Power Query Editor, you can reference this comprehensive up-to-date list of the M functions. And as I mentioned, they have over 700 in here. So the M language is incredibly powerful. I feel like it's a really underutilized resource. But if you were, let's say, doing a whole set of things, you could just bring up this, essentially this dictionary, this reference work in a blank query, okay, just a blank sheet of paper. Then you just do hashtag equals hashtag shared in your blank query. And now you have a comprehensive list of all of the things that you are interested, that you might want to look at, that you can go searching for, etc. Really, really cool.
Is that list an ever-growing list? Like in Power Apps and Power Automate, there's often new expressions and functions being released. Is this relatively static, do you think, or is it something that is constantly being added to? I don't know whether that's an easy one to answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question.
No.
I will tell you that my go-to for M, hold on, I'm going to put, because I told you SQL BI was my, and by the way, Wayne, was that you? Yes, you are absolutely welcome. Absolutely. Yeah, that's just, it's, you know what it is? It's like in tech, they call things Easter eggs because they're hidden inside of other things. That is an example of an Easter egg, in my opinion. I don't know if Easter eggs are supposed to be bad, but anyway, hold on. Let me bring over. Okay, well,
that's valuable content that's hidden away.
Okay, see, there you go. All right, hold on, everybody. Let me get to Ben's site here. This site, and I'll post the blog. I'll post this link. I took a class with this guy. I cannot recommend him enough. Hold on, his site is amazing. It's technical, but he does very deep dives into M. And he is my absolute resource. And he does do a class just on M. So if you, and it's pretty affordable. I mean, I think it was under $500. But if you're in the market to get better at this, eventually, just like SQLBI.com, you'll probably want to navigate towards Ben, because and meanwhile, read his blog. He's forgotten more than a lot of people know about M, in my opinion. So my thought to answer your question, John, is I don't get the impression it's growing, but I could be wrong. I don't hear a lot. Power Query Editor is just sort of like the red-headed stepchild or the bald-headed stepchild in Microsoft. It doesn't seem like they release a lot against it, but
maybe it does what it needs to do. You know, there aren't many edge cases that it can't cover, perhaps. Don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very comprehensive. So anyway, check out his blog. Highly recommend him. He's a great resource. And Melissa, you are absolutely right. That hashtag shared library. Yeah, and just a little bit of trivia. the reason you type in hashtag shared, and I learned this from Ben, is because when you are building your queries, M has this concept of a shared query. See, I have to go back and take his class again. But there's a concept of something being specifically local and something being shared. And I'd have to go back and review my notes and also probably go back to his blog. But the M language is way more complex than any of us give it credit for. So again, if you need to be a data wrangler, so if you think that, just like I said, DAX is a must know if you're going to build a data model, M is a must know if you're in charge of transforming data. You are going to definitely get by, without a doubt. You're going to get by in the Power Query Editor for a good length of time without knowing M. But eventually, you are going to need to know M if you're going to get really good. So anyway, just a shout out to Ben. Yeah,
I think that's really good advice, Jessica, and I can speak to that in the real world, having become, I would say, I personally, on my journey, I've become somewhat able to use Power BI with multiple data sources, and I've become somewhat able to use the language of DAX to filter my data in quite a number of circumstances, but not a lot. And yet I've not yet had to delve deep into M, but I know that would be, both with DAX and with M, they would be my natural next steps, along with modeling, get really good at that. So it's like you almost peeling back the onion a bit. You can do, you know enough to be dangerous, and then you go, right, now I know enough to know that I need to know more about M and DAX and all that good things. That's what that's a real world example for me, I think.
Yeah, and Melissa, you just asked the question I was just going to say something about. So, you know, what I think about this, or what I've done, and it doesn't mean that's the right thing for everybody, but again, remember, my whole job is to teach other people. So I don't have a specialty because I kind of have to be a generalist. If you do have a specialty, meaning if you are going to just do modeling and someone else is going to hand you the data already transformed, or it doesn't need any transformations, then which is unusual, then I would say learn DAX first. Okay, but if you're going to also be responsible for doing transformations, the key, you will need to learn M, but not right away, because you're going to be able to skate for a long time just using the ribbon. But the key to that, in my opinion, is, hold on, where's my Power Query Editor? Hold the boat, everybody. There it is. Always keep your formula bar open. Okay, so when I teach Power Query Editor, I tell students there's an option, unlike in the Power BI desktop, where the formula bar only shows up if you're writing something in DAX or if you're looking at something that was created using DAX. But here in the Power Query Editor, you have the option to leave that formula bar open all the time. And that's a must do, because what's going to happen is you're going to gradually, without even being aware of it, assimilate and absorb. And I think somebody used the word osmosis early on. You're going to, by osmosis, a nice technical scientific word there, you're going to absorb some of that M without even making a concrete effort. So my philosophy on this is, first, because you can go longer in the Power Query Editor before you really have to master M, I'd say probably focus on DAX, because DAX doesn't give you any shortcuts. There's no helping hand. Well, that's not true. The Power BI desktop has, what is this tool they use? Hold on, right over here. Wait a minute. Let me get in here. What is it called? Quick measure. So the Power BI desktop does have quick measures, and that does build DAX for you, but it's got a limited number of options. So you know, I think you're going to hit the wall faster on DAX than you're going to hit the wall for M. So I would say, and actually it's interesting, that's kind of how I've gone. I have taken Ben's class in M. I have read Collect, Combine, Transform. I've read this other book. I'm not as good at M as I want to be, but I'm focusing on DAX right now because I can get by in the Power Query editor. I can hack in the Power Query editor longer than I can hack over here in the Power BI desktop. So
yeah, I don't think that's an uncommon experience, because that's two of us on the call who have probably followed that path, and I'm obviously way behind you, but I've followed a similar path where a little bit of visualization, again in the similar format to you. I probably recognize that there's a lot more to be done in visualizations and the layout of dashboards, but that's a whole different specialist topic. But I've definitely gone further into DAX before I've had to even consider M. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to go to that place where you do dashboards, you're more than likely going to hit up against DAX sooner. So I would bias towards what you're saying there, that DAX is probably a more important one to learn. And hey, Jessica, I've just dropped something on the floor. I'll pick it up in a minute. That leads us on to something you were talking about before. Do you want to share that? The thing that you might be looking at that might excite people?
Okay, so let me show you guys. So I said I'm on a DAX learning journey. I've been on this DAX learning journey for a minute and a half. And because I don't teach right now, I don't teach super advanced Power BI per se. I cover elements of it, but most people are still sort of on that beginner to intermediate. But eventually, you know, I know that people are going to come along that pathway, and they're going to eventually need to move into some of those complex topics, and y'all might be some of them. But anyway, well, first of all, while I bring this up, Melissa, did we answer your question? I think we did, but I want to make sure. So let me bring this up while we're doing this. Okay, good. So my process for learning DAX, hold on, let me just bring something in so you can see it. My process for learning DAX is, I have found what works best for me is to start with a simple example with simple data and then build it up gradually so that I can see what's happening, because DAX has a lot of complex concepts in it, like filter context and row context and context transition, and, you know, concepts that they take a while to internalize. And so what I've started doing is I've started writing out lessons. Well, before I do that, who here, and I think, John, you said you did it in the UK. For my US folks, who here remembers SRA reading boxes in the back of your classroom? Anybody? Let me just put it in the chat just to see. Hey, Gail. All right. Yay. That's my gal. Okay. Melissa. Wayne. Nope. You're too young then, Wayne. I know, Gail. I know. How old am I? I know. Okay. So my idea came from, so for those of you who don't know what the SRA box was, see, Melissa can even remember what level she didn't get. Okay. So you're my tribe, peeps, you're my tribe. Okay, so for those of you, Wayne, okay, this goes to you, Wayne. If you don't remember, what it was is you had a box in the back of the classroom, and this was like elementary school, and they had cards, and the cards were color-coded, and you had like content, you know, something you had to read, and then you answered questions about what you read. And it was gamification before gamification. And I loved that. Because it was challenging, right? And look at that. Melissa's traumatized. She didn't even get to Brown. She still remembers. So, you know, you had all those levels you had to, and you felt a sense of progress. So I thought, okay, then I combined that with another thought that I had, which was, and I was telling John this before we started, I cried through every math class I ever had. That's not an exaggeration. Until I got out of college and I thought I wanted to go to business school. Ha, 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 ha. Anyway, I didn't end up going to business school. But to do that, I had to have calculus. And I had never, when I tell you peeps, I would full on sob in math classes, which was stupid. But anyway, I figured out in that calculus class that I could pass it if and only if, and I was paying for it at this point, people. So I had skin in the game now. I figured out I had to do every single exercise, practice exercise. Then I had to go to the back of the book and get practice exercises from the back of the book. Then I had to go to the teacher and get more practice exercises. And if I did all of those exercises, I could understand the concept. And I got straight A's. But I refused to do that when I was younger because I was stupid. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, why can't I combine these two ideas with DAX? Like build like an SRA library with, color-coded worksheets where we start very simple and we explain the concept and whatever, and people practice, and then they move up on their own time and their own pace to the next exercise. And one of the key principles that Collab 365 has that I love is they do their learning has taught them, their research has taught them, and John, correct me if I'm misspeaking, that adult learners want things in bite-sized chunks. They don't have time. They got to get in, they got to learn something, then they got to go on and do the other 40,000 things that need to be done that day. They got to do their day job, in other words. So I also borrowed that idea in terms of keeping it to under 5 or less exercises, so that it is something you could say, okay, I'm going to put 15 minutes aside to do this. So you start with the first exercise, and then I explain it. I tell you what answer you should get, and then I build. So I build gradually on each exercise with iteration. So some of it is definitely repetitive, and for some people that might be super boring and annoying, and that's okay. That's just not the person I'm, reaching with this. But for someone like me who had to do all of these repetitive, iterative exercises to understand the concept, that's who I'm aiming this for. So again, lots of exercises, but no more than 5. And then a sequence of explanations, as well as a link to, where they can read more about that particular function, not my work, that's SQL BI's work. But the idea is that, oh, look at that. So Sydney says, PE for girls, learning basketball. Oh, interesting.
Don't know dribble. Love some of these phrases. You don't know dribble.
Yeah. But again, so I'm super excited about this selfishly, because I'm building these exercises for me, and I am learning so much. Like, for example, I'll tell you guys, I'm on exercise 5, lesson 5. Well, I'm on lesson 6, but that's because lesson 5, is it lesson 5? One of these I've gotten stumped. So it's making me think about, okay, what is it I don't understand about this function? And more importantly, not just what do I not understand, but how can I, once I do understand it, how can I explain it? And how can I build a set of exercises for somebody so that they will understand what's happening? So anyway, so I am learning as I go, and I'm using DAX Studio. So if you guys are not familiar with DAX Studio, that is a built-in, I'll bring it up on my screen. That is a free product developed by Darren Gosbell, I think, in Sydney, Australia, but widely used, free product. When you download it onto your machine, it also will connect with Power BI so that you can open up a Power BI desktop file and then go and open up DAX Studio. And so the reason DAX Studio is so helpful is you have your model over here on the left-hand side. So this is my model. This is all coming in from, the Northwind data set here. So again, nothing fancy in terms of a model. Let me close these all up so you can see this. Okay. Why is this? There we go. So here you can see all the tables right there. Okay. And that comes in because I opened up the Power BI desktop with this model, and then I clicked on DAX Studio under external tools.
Okay,
And
so I was going to ask that,
yeah,
Jessica. How do you
yeah,
surface this from within Power BI Desktop? So you've installed it. I've just sent a link. What's the
yep.
journey from Power BI Desktop look like?
So easy, so easy. Here I'm back in Power BI Desktop. As soon as you install it, not just DAX Studio, any one of the individual external tools, you will get a tab on your ribbon that says external tools. You don't do anything. It's just as soon as that product is installed on your computer, you will see this tab called external tools. And I have 3 of them installed. I have Analyze in Excel, DAX Studio, and Tabular Editor 3. So we can come on another time and talk about Tabular Editor 3 and DAX and Excel and Analyze in Excel. But these are all 3 of these products either are free or have a free version. So Tabular Editor has a community version, which is free, and a paid version. But as soon as you've got that model up, okay, so here I've got a different model. So I'll just go ahead and launch DAX Studio. So just by clicking on it, I'll go ahead and launch DAX Studio, and that'll bring up DAX Studio, and DAX Studio will have this model in it. So here I've got a new
That's awesome.
iteration. Oh, it's an incredible tool. Now, the reason that I'm using it to practice this DAX stuff is because it is faster. And it doesn't have any visual capabilities. So you're not visualizing anything here. So that's one thing to be really aware of, is you're not building a report over here. You are purely working with DAX. So let me just go ahead and let me say that I want to see. So I'm going to enter a query here. I'll zoom up on this in a second so you can see it. So I'm going to enter a query, and I'm going to say summarize. Open that, and then I'm going to say, let me find one. I don't know if I want to do all sales. Let me do product. Okay, so I'm going to say product. Hold on, I got to remember. This is why. See, guys, this is why I'm practicing. So hold on. Let me find my little, you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste one of these in here. So hold on. This is why I'm practicing. Okay, I want to get so good at it that it just flows off of my fingers, which that's a big ask. Okay, so hang on, everybody. Why are you not copying in? Okay,
It's
you're
all
not
these
gonna.
little things that just catch out the noob, isn't it, when you're first starting these?
Yeah,
Why
you
does
know what?
copy
Hold
and
on.
paste not
I
work?
will go back to this one. So this one you can see. All I'm doing here is I'm reiterating different versions. So every time you see the word evaluate, that's a new DAX query that I'm playing with. Okay, so this right here, this is a DAX query. So if I want to run this in the DAX Studio, all I have to do is select that and come up here and hit run. Okay, so I can hit run, and then down here at the bottom, I will get that particular thing, and let's find the one that is the latest. This is the latest right here, I think. Let me try running that again. Let's see if we can get, all right. And let's see,
demo
results.
dodge, right?
There you go. Nope, it's okay. So here are the so first you get the log. So that shows you when it started running, how long it took. If you made an error, it will show you the error. It'll give you the error. Okay, and then you have results. So you can then click on your results, and you can see the answer here. And then you have a history of all the queries that you've run. So you can look at whether, you can look at what component of the timings each piece cost you. Okay, so most of the people do, each query cost you. So most of the people do not, most people do not start in DAX Studio, because DAX Studio is really purposed for writing DAX and evaluating the performance of your DAX. Okay, which you can do a little bit of that in Power BI Desktop, but here the idea is you have your model, you start to write your measures and you do your queries, and you can start to, first of all, you can practice and make sure you get the right answers.
Yeah.
Secondly, you can measure how fast they are, how effective they are. So it's a little bit of an intimidating tool at the beginning, but it's incredibly useful, and it's a free tool. So I am building out my lessons on using DAX Studio because I figure that's kind of a 2-for-1, because then you get practice using DAX Studio and you also get practice using your DAX. So anyway, so there we go. That was my comment.
I think that's fantastic, Jessica, because I mean, just again, speaking from my own experience, whether I was doing it right or wrong, when I was developing measures using DAX, until I'd started to use those measures on the screen in a visual or a table or whatever, it's not immediately clear whether I've got it right or not. But having this sandpit to play in to test it, and then you can see the results almost like a virtual table being created, is fantastic, because then you can decide if that's the thing I want. Brilliant, I'll go and implement that now in a measure. And maybe there's, I don't know if there's a way that you can take your DAX that you've developed here and generate measures. Can you do that, or do you have to cut and paste?
You have to cut and paste.
Yeah,
to the best of my knowledge, you have to cut and paste. But
yeah, okay.
The idea here, and if you've built a measure over in the desktop, so let me open this up so you can see. If you've built a measure, so here you see my orders details table, and I've got those measures there. Actually, there's more measures. Hold on, those are just the ones that I put into the folder. But all of these with the calculator here, these are all measures I've built. And you can then come in and you can evaluate their performance. You can tinker with them. So any measure that you've built will also come over here.
That's awesome.
It's a great playground. I think for me, and this is the dumbest barrier to entry you're ever going to hear. Okay, so you're never going to hear a dumber one, but I could not understand the rules for when you would use evaluate and when you would use define. And every time you do something in DAX Studio, you either have to put evaluate or define. And in fact, the DAX that Power BI generates behind the scenes uses evaluate and define. But what confused me was I wasn't aware of that, and I didn't use them, and I didn't understand until very recently how to use those. So anyway, so I'm kind of building that in as a lesson as well. But if you want a good primer on DAX Studio, and Analyze in Excel, and the other tool that they have, which is Vertipack Analyzer, all of which are free, SQL BI has a really good free introductory course to those tools. So again, I'm amazed, guys, by how many resources out there are free. I mean, it's really, and what's really nice about it, I think, is that, we're not, that free material is not cannibalizing anybody else, because everybody is, like, for example, I'm not going to teach people how to use DAX Studio because there's far better content out there. So I can spend my time getting people the practice, because it's one thing to know how to use DAX Studio conceptually. It's another thing to actually use it to do something. So anyway, so I'm really excited about that. And I've been working on it, and John and I are talking. So if you think that community of practice might be of interest to you, maybe an incentive is maybe I'll bring this to the community of practice.
That'd be awesome. I mean, you've talked about the ability to potentially host artifacts, ideas. We've talked along the lines today, Connor and myself and Mark and Fraser, around this idea of community of practices, but having like a dedicated forum space. I know we've got the Microsoft 365 forum in the Academy, which is fab. But when you really want to drill into topics, we're interested in what you think as a general audience, whether you would want more dedicated forums and more dedicated spaces for subjects within the community. So still free access, places to go, but starting to split out some of these services. The fear we have, Jessica, just to be completely transparent, is that we end up with too many spaces that's just confusing as to where people go. But that said, Power BI is a big topic and it's got a lot of space to explore, isn't it? And that could be fantastic what you've just described there. People come in and do, what did you call it? SRA?
Yeah, the SRA, they still exist, guys. For those of you who remember them, I thought, oh, surely they don't exist anymore, but they do. They still do them.
We have a reading system. Oh, it's a system. It's the same idea. I remember doing it myself, and I remember we had a reading one where we got to brown levels and all sorts.
Yeah, there you go. See,
yeah.
Everybody. Yeah, electronic SRA, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
And you know what? It's not a learning style for everybody. I mean, some people, like, look at Wayne. Wayne's out there killing it, man. He's just poking his head in and trying it and doing it. And that is a perfectly good learning style for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, like, I would say Wayne might be an anomaly because and I can only speak for myself truthfully. If I need to learn a language, because that's what these things are, at some point, I have to find a way to approach it systematically. I just do. So, because languages build on one concept onto another. And you may have that kind of brain like Wayne does, where he's like, let me go experiment. And I love that. That's not for everybody. You know, it's just not everybody's brain works that way. Yeah, totally. A lot of languages, and Melissa, a lot of languages. Yes. And, you know, again, that's hard for Power BI because I think people come into it and they, you know, because let's face it, people, though, how does Microsoft sell Power BI? Self-service, 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 self-service. And you get into it and you're like, who self? You know, it's hard.
Yeah, which mega brain self are they talking to? Because it takes learning, doesn't it? It takes effort. And I love the fact you've alluded to the different learning styles. Because some people learn by having a problem to solve, and it sounds like that's where Wayne majors. I certainly prefer that process. I'm not a methodical learner myself, but I know, for example, Mark is. He will sit down with a book about a topic and he will go front to back and he'll learn it because his brain can absorb all of that systematic approach. So it's fascinating to look at learning approaches.
And look at what Wayne posted. So first of all, let me shout out Melissa. Flashcards. Yes, that's the next big step. Wayne said that he's using Chat GPT. You know what, Wayne? I am telling you that most of the more like skilled, experienced, whatever people that I hang out with, that's one of the methods they're using is Chat GPT. So good on you for that. And that is something that we could put into a community of practices. How do you do that? Because one of the comments, we had a conversation about this in my networking group like a week ago. And our comment was, yes, that works. And it does work. And I know, John, you do it too.
Yeah.
But the key is understanding how to evaluate the answer that it gives you.
100%.
And making sure, because you still have to have the critical skills. And obviously you do have it, Wayne, and John has it, and these other people have it. I just haven't made that leap yet. I'm so old school. I'm so old fashioned. I like my books. What the heck? Why are we going to do away with books, people? I love my books. Love my books. Oh,
just to respond to Melissa. So funny enough, actually, Mark's been working on a thing at the moment where prompts are the secret sauce with ChatGPT. Because if you think of it, a lot of people use ChatGPT just like Google. It's a search engine. They'll go and say, "Give me some information," or "Share this. Tell me what's wrong with this thing," or "Describe or summarize this thing," and they'll poke that in, and they'll get generally good answers out. But the concept of prompts is if you structure your question in some well-defined ways with some well-defined keywords that a lot of people use, because there is an art in it, it's a language in itself, then the answers you get back are brilliant. So what Mark's begun doing is to develop it's a Power App actually, which we've preloaded prompts that we can dynamically put different tokens into, so different, different keywords, but they will consistently give us good answers back, and we can use it from within the context of a Power App. But there is skill still. People go, oh, AI is easy. It is. But if you really want to get good with it and get it to help you in the best way, it again is another little bit of language to learn. So we will be posting some stuff about prompts very soon, I think, maybe even tomorrow. Keep your eyes peeled for that. It's a great service when used well.
I need to go to that class, because the other technique that people are using, hold on, I've got a book. Hold on, let me find it, because I got a book for everything, people. But everybody in my little group is starting to read this Definitive Guide to Spark because of Fabric, because Fabric is going to bring notebooks and Python and Spark to the table. And what they're doing, building a little bit on what Wayne said. And I love Eva. Yay. I'm glad you joined the chat. And yes, exactly. But what they're doing is they are taking the book and they are reading it. And of course, you can read it online, whatever. And then they're going to Chat GPT. So if there's something they don't understand, then they put it into Chat GPT. I haven't made that leap yet. So, but I am, I'm a fan of books. I know that makes me old school. But the one thing about a book that I think is really valuable is that someone has put some thought into and curated a process for you, curated a journey. So I wrote a book on passing the PL 300, and there's lots of resources out there. I will never, ever claim that, just read my book, no, you need to read multiple books. You need to look at multiple websites, whatever. But I put thought into that book as far as what do I think is necessary to pass the PL 300. I'm not the last word on that, but at least you start with someone's perspective. Yeah. And then you go, okay, you know what? I think I need to know a little bit more about this. I think I need to, I don't have enough content on this in this book. Let me go, but at least you got a starting point. Okay, let me now go research these other topics. I could ask Chat GPT about these topics. So again, love this. Oh my God, you guys, this is so awesome. And you've really participated. John,
it's been fun,
first of all, yeah, it has been. So everybody put it out in the forums that you liked it. So maybe we could do it again and more people would come. That'd be so awesome.
We should do. So we are coming to the end of our hour and a half today, Jessica. But it's as always, it's been a really insightful hour and a half for me, because I love listening to you and your learning journeys and the ideas you share. And I completely with you. I've loved the fact that people have got involved today. It makes these much more fun, doesn't it, when we have involvement and we have your perspectives and input as well. Gives us lots to talk about. And
then put stuff in. I don't know, John, where you want people to put stuff, ideas, so that like we can have a starting point for. I mean, John and I, trust me, we can BS all day long. We're good at that, but we'd like to have a topic list.
So what I'm going to do, Jessica, is because it has continuity with something else we're doing, and we have an appetite to start to explore this. We're just not entirely sure how to land it. What I don't want to do is I don't want to land just the Power BI community practice alone. I'd like it to be part of an initiative where we start to move the academy to give people places to go. I'm going to post into. I'm probably going to put it in the social forum. I'm going to post to get your feedback as a group of people, how and what you'd like to see, and I'll post in the idea of community of practice. But that said, if there's artifacts from today, Jessica, that we think we could share, or ideas, let's bung them into that post. Let's find a home for them, and ultimately we can migrate stuff in the academy. But I want to get people's views, because I'm getting the overriding opinion from today that this group at least would value Power BI space, and I know I would, and I think it'd be a great thing.
All right. Well, I have loved coming on with you. John, I'm a show pony, so I'm always up for whatever we want to talk about.
Awesome. So what's this space? What's the academy? we are changing the pattern ever so subtly. Well, before I go on to the final closing points, I just want to say a big thank you, Jessica. Really enjoyed chatting to you again. It's been awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So,
excuse you. What are you making fun of my accent?
no,
Are
not at
you
all,
making
no.
fun of? Oh, uh-huh. Mm-hmm,
No, y'all. I'm not.
Okay, I'm not
So-
going to say what I wanted to say to you on air. That would be a bad move.
I know it starts with F and ends in off, but you know. So look, next week we are changing the pattern slightly, but there's still really good space for this kind of conversation. And I know we'll come back to this style again, Jessica, very soon. But from next week on Monday, just to let people know, we have another live session. It's going to be a slightly changed name. We used to do the summits and we used to do watch parties. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a weekly digest, and it'll be looking at the trends and themes that have popped up in our daily digest over this week. And Connor and myself are going to pick out some of the themes and topics and drill deeper, because that's like the pulse of Microsoft 365. It's what goes on day, the changes. And we're hoping that people will have want to find out what's going on and see us explore. And I know in there's going to be some Power BI stuff. And then next Friday, Connor's going to start a whole new live build series, but he's going to be building a game in Power Apps. And I think it's going to be really good fun, because he's going to learn loads of skills, but with a real anchored idea of a collaborative, cooperative game in Power Apps, just for a bit of fun. So watch out for that. And there'll be way more going into the events list, so please do have a look at the events list. But I think for now, we've hit time, and I'm just going to say thank you very much, everybody, for what's been a lovely afternoon today. I've really enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next time.
No. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you
Ta-ta.
guys. Have a great weekend.
Ta-ta for now.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.